We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
I am crotchety. She is crotchety. We are crotchety old men.
And a wonderful woman.
Yes, she is. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of We Are Crotchety Old Men and a Woman. And today we will have a special guest who's been with us before, but we're going to get into that momentarily. So, Abigail, I heard that we actually have received a few emails, but I have to tell you, a lot of people wanted to know how to reach out to us. They reached out to us through Twitter, and it's at crotchety old men. So for on Twitter, it's at crotchety old men. But if you wanted to email us, you can email us at we are crotchety old men. I know that's long. We are crotchety old men at gmail.com. So Abigail, tell me, what were our emails? I didn't look at today.
Well, we actually got 2 follow-ups to Grandma Edna.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Yeah, one was from Steve from Beckley, West Virginia. Now, Beckley, I've heard of it, but I'm not sure where it is, but it's buried somewhere in West Virginia.
Okay.
But he just said that Grandma Edna was a fun episode, and I have to agree, we're going to have her come back.
Yeah, I need to play Legos. Do you play Legos? I don't know if you like play or just create. I don't know. I'm gonna go sit over here now. Okay.
So then we also had Stacy from Fairfax
Fairfax.
asking about pumpkin spice coffee.
Oh, okay.
I don't drink it. How about you, Arden?
I actually thought I liked it, and then it became super popular, so now I don't. And I just saw something. They said if you get at Dunkin' Donuts like the grand pumpkin spice latte, it has as much sugar as 14 Dunkin' Donuts that are glazed. Can you imagine eating 14 glazed donuts?
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I would do it if they were Boston cream. But yeah, I'm wondering if that's Fairfax, Virginia, or Fairfax, what is that, Nova Scotia, I think?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I have to go with Fairfax, Virginia.
I would think so too, but I know we do have a couple Canadian listeners, but the listener that we have on with us right now is Mr. N. Are you there, Mr. N?
Yes, how are you? Almost heaven, West Virginia. Take me
Nice.
home, take me home to a place where I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home.
Wow. That was incredible. Hold on. Woo! Woo! That was incredible. I actually don't know the words to it, so I'm very impressed that you did. Abigail, do you know the words to that song?
Absolutely, it's a classic.
And who sings that? Not, I was about to say Bob Denver.
No, John Denver.
John Denver. Who's Bob Denver?
I'm not sure, but
Is that Gilligan?
the tragedy of John Denver is he had a song called Flying on a Jet Plane.
Yes, I remember.
And he ended up dying because he was flying on a jet plane.
Was he the pilot or just a passenger?
He was the pilot.
He was the pilot. Wow. Kind of like Thurman Munson of the Yankees was the pilot and he died. That was a tough one when I was a kid.
But
okay.
his plane was experimental.
Got it.
But he still died.
God, I'm trying to figure out how to bring this back to Mr. N. Well, Thurman Munson was a Yankee, and the Yankees play in New York, and Mr. N is in New York. So how's it going out there? Are you getting soaking wet today on the first day of fall?
Well, actually, it was kind of pleasant. It was rather cool. You know, I was outside for a few minutes, and I had an umbrella. It wasn't too bad. I think it's getting a little more windy because of the storm.
Right.
But it wasn't, you know, we had so much hot, humid weather, so 60 degrees seems rather refreshing.
Cool. Well, with it being nice and cool and refreshing, we have to know, are the lanternflies still around?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've still killed a few lanternflies. I must admit they're not moving as fast nowadays. I think they're dying out
Okay.
because the season is we're moving into the colder weather. They have been very industrious, unfortunately, laying eggs into certain trees. So they have
Mm,
their grubs or whatever, the larva
their
is
brood.
implanted in trees,
Okay.
and they'll be back, unfortunately. But there's a question about how dangerous the lanternflies are. Some say they're not really hurting the trees. Others argue that they're hurting agriculture. I know in Pennsylvania, in wine country, they're concerned. So uh, a lot of dead lanternflies. I must have killed several hundred
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
lanternflies this summer, and
You're
Wow.
the,
very proud to have
you're
done
the
that.
lantern slayer.
That so much more than me. I gotta admit, I had my one time where I tried to kill two of them, and I couldn't kill either of them. And I thought they were going to pick up my shoe and hit me. So those things are pretty damn tough. So I'm embarrassed by that. That I tried. I was in New Jersey, and it was embarrassing. I brought great shame to Abigail and I. It was. I'm sorry.
He really did.
So so you actually brought up a topic that you emailed us about that I actually don't know anything about. It's what is it, a green tax or a green initiative? What exactly is
Well,
this?
yeah, I mean, actually, there are a lot of environmental initiatives that the city is starting to do. One of them is Local Law 97, and the idea is that New York City will reduce its emissions footprint by year X. I don't know all the timelines. As soon as the city council passed the law, it went immediately into litigation. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, but co-ops, and there are a lot of co-ops in New York City, condos and co-ops, a lot of apartment living in New York City, they will have to retrofit their buildings if they are a certain size,
Right.
and that could cost tens of millions of dollars. And I'm not sure if they're going to be credits or any kind of funding. For example, a lot of old buildings have old boilers,
Right.
and the heat comes up through the pipes. That would have to be all retrofitted to heat pumps, where you can actually control your own heat and electricity. And we'll see how that works out. We'll see. I don't know
Wait,
how, what kind of financial hardship that would be. I will say this, that I was surprised the last bill that I was surprised that the electric cost was not very high. It was only like $40 or $50 for the month. And maybe because one of the air conditioners that I have is a newer one, which is energy efficient. So it's going to be curious how this is going to all work out. But a lot of apparently there's going to be potentially a lot of retrofitting, and then how do you expedite the process so certain approvals can be done efficiently? The city sometimes takes a long time just to get a sign off to start a project or complete a project. So it's to be continued. It's going to be very busy for people working in architecture and buildings, and
Right.
we'll see how that
well,
unfolds.
I sure would hope that they would wait until the spring and not try to do this during the winter. And with heat pumps, from what I've been told, they're just not as good as far as heating homes up. Do you agree?
I don't have a heat pump, so I wouldn't.
I know that when you go to the hotel, it's sort of like a heat pump. You have some control over the thermostat, not all the control. You can't just turn it off, or else the pipes will freeze in the hotel.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Uh, do they? The good old heating systems have worked for 70, 80, 100 years. So I don't know. It's going to be curious to see when the new stuff, if it comes in, how that's going to work.
Now you own your place, or do you not, or do you rent?
Uh, own the place.
So you own it, and the city is going to say, now you must have blank in this co-op. And I know my mom, she lives up in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I know that like she has an oil pump, not an oil pump, an oil tank, in her driveway, and I don't know if the town could tell her like you now must have this instead. And so I'm that's amazing that the government in the city can tell you that, well, not you directly, but tells your building, and because you own part of that building, that they could tell you you must pay for this.
Well, well, first of all, I want to clarify. I own shares,
Shares.
shares in so I own shares in the corporation
Oh, okay.
as a
Okay.
co-op.
All
Now,
right.
I do think that cities and local municipalities probably can pass laws to force you to do what they want. They can, there's talk about certain towns, outside the city, they're going to reassess the property taxes. They will tell you this is what you have to pay now. So there is some, they do have power uh, over what, in some degree, what, how we live our lives, and I guess that's a philosophical debate that we may have, in a
Right.
large scale, but it's, yeah, I think, if you're, if your mother lived in, a suburb of Westchester or suburb in Long Island or wherever, the municipality could say, yes, you have to get rid of your
Wow.
oil
I
tank. Now that they probably won't move as fast as New York City. Uh,
right. I'm
well,
just thinking there's going to be a lot of litigation. Now, was this under De Blasio or is this under Adams?
it's under De Blasio. The city council did this under De Blasio.
And so, I mean, I don't know anything about New York, so I apologize if I sound naive. Um, so, like, is this the same city council, or could Mayor Adams go in and work with the current city council and override this? I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he has some power to make recommendations. I think this is, I think people are, concerned about admissions, and they feel that this is going to help the city. The city has made some great strides. I don't know if you've ever been out to LA. I've been out to Los Angeles, and it's in a valley. It's polluted. Everyone drives a car. I remember having a sore throat the entire time I was there until I went to San Francisco, and then the allergy, whatever, cleared up. New York has a lot more, believe it or not, has more clean air than many places in the country, and they have
wow.
electric buses now. They have natural gas buses. Uh,
Yep,
so
I saw
it's
that.
so yeah. I guess the question is, how do you do this in a way that's efficient, that so everyone can live happily ever after? Everyone,
Right, right.
uh, uh, it gets better because, well, I don't know if it gets better, but in the same vein, I guess it's partly because of the green initiatives. There's going to be congestion pricing
I saw
implemented
that.
next spring. That's what they have in London.
Yep.
If you go south of 60th Street in New York City, you'll have to pay $23. So
Oh
that's
my
going to be
God.
addition to the toll. So how is that going to affect businesses, and are there going to be waivers?
There might have to be a lot more telework. I every once in a while used to have to work when I lived up there. I used to work at the Twin Towers, believe it or not. Um, and I used to drive in. I would actually drive in through the Lincoln Tunnel. And back then, I think it was $8. So it was a long time ago. And I'd park. Then I would hop on a subway and go down there. So I couldn't imagine people wanting to pay even more money because I think the George Washington Bridge is like $20. And then if you keep driving, like I know a lot of people who live in the city probably are sitting back going, who cares? I don't even have a car. Let all these people from New Jersey pay. Let all the people from Connecticut pay. But I think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot,
well,
by
yeah, I guess New Jersey's not happy about it. I think they're suing New York.
right.
It's but I will say this: despite all the problems that New York has, it still has the worst traffic in the entire country. So if and
Yes.
you
I
saw that very badly this week with the UN delegation. It's just
Oh,
gridlock, and you to have a car here is just I don't. It's very very hard, and we'll see how this goes. Maybe who knows? Hopefully, if there were challenges, they would be addressed. Yeah, it's a complicated question. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about that momentarily, but before I forget, like, um, it's been a while since there was the question. I remember watching a show and they had like the pizza guy on, who makes pizzas, and they were going to make sure all if you used, I think it was charcoal or wood. And fireplaces in your pizza place, they were going to insert something like a cap inside, and you would have to pay to get that retrofitted. And kind of like the whole gas stove initiative. Like, have any of those gone through that you know of?
Well, most people in New York City still have gas stoves. I'm not sure how that would work because you'd have to retrofit the electricity to get electric stoves. Uh, I don't really have much familiarity with electric stoves. I know a lot of people across the country
Right,
do use them. Some people are very, very passionate about
right.
one
Their
or the
gas
other.
stoves. Yeah, I mean, I know I have an electric stove. I actually loved my gas stove because it was faster. And I mean, if you want Chinese food, like they pump that stuff like as high as possible. That's why it's so fast. That's why they can cook so fast.
Same
But
with the Koreans.
same with the Korean food.
Yeah, yeah,
All Asian food, I would say, maybe.
Yes.
I'm being politically
yeah.
correct.
I think they're gonna restrict the amount of carbon emissions in the pizza places can use. Now, I know from experience. I was in Brooklyn and I went to a pizza place, and there was an old guy. It was supposedly a very famous pizza place. An old guy was sitting there making pizzas, and everyone was waiting. It was supposed to be so famous. It was so expensive. The smell of the charcoal turned me off completely, personally.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
was like, I don't like burnt pizza, so
Right. So it was probably more of like that brick oven type pizza that does actually kind of have burnt crusts a lot.
yeah.
They're
Uh,
not as thick.
yeah.
Um,
So another thing that you may find interesting is there's a movement to change the way when people pass away. No longer there's a movement. I don't think it's legislation yet, but there's a
okay.
movement to uh, move away from cremation and have human composting.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. That's nasty. You would like I was about to ask a question, but now I'm like, oh, I'm so grossed out right now.
I am too.
Like, okay, so I'm my brother went through a whole compost thing, and you just throw your eggs and your bones and stuff. Like, ew. So is there going to be like piles of dead, obviously like ground up bodies just sitting in the sun or under a tarp
No, well, I
for
don't know the
years?
particulars of this. They've already done this out in Washington State, but I guess they put the body in a box, and there's materials or chemicals that decompose the body very quickly, and then they dig it back up, and you get the remains.
Oh my God. Why don't we just go to the whole Soylent Green at this point? Just have everybody like just eat the dead. It makes it a lot easier instead
Well,
of
well, yeah,
great
I'm
movie,
not
by the way.
prepared to address that question, but
Charlton Heston,
but
great
I'm
movie.
just yeah, I'm just telling you what's going on. These are just facts. This is just what's happening in New York in terms of the green initiatives. And I will say that the buses, you don't really smell the gas from the buses.
Right?
They're running on natural gas, and they're moving to electric. So those are good. I mean, there's another question whether people actually pay their fare, but
Right.
but
That's
but,
a whole
but
other
the
story.
but it's actually those buses are actually Mercedes-Benz buses that if people take care of them, they have UBS charging stations. They're relatively nifty.
Right.
They're very very nice buses. You're actually going around in a Mercedes-Benz product, which probably costs
The
about
city
three
quite a
hundred
lot of
thousand
money.
dollars.
Yeah. I do actually have a New York City dirty air story. Way back in 1993, maybe slash 94, I actually took a 1 week job as a chauffeur in New York City working. Do you remember the New York City Fashion Show? And there was the
Yeah.
restaurant. I think it was called Seven on the Seventh.
Yeah.
And my job was I was actually a chauffeur driving cars for that and picking up like supermodels and all of them and met some famous people. Sigourney Weaver honestly was the nicest person in the car. She wanted to sit in the front of the car, believe it or not. And we were chatting like crazy. But anyway, I just remember going back to the hotel that night and cleaning my face and all of the black soot was on it. It was disgusting. Like, do you remember? Do they still have like those Stridex pads? Do they still make those things? They were like a circle.
I'm not sure.
I'm
Oh,
not
but
sure. Yeah.
yeah, like, but hey, that's what we did in back in the day. But so I cleaned. I used I think 4 or 5 of them just to clean
Well,
my
yeah.
face. It was
I
disgusting.
mean, yeah, I'm not just change the subject for a minute.
Sorry.
And it's interesting because I have a story about Fashion Week as well. Not that story, but uh, one of the universities that I went to had had a college in Australia. So there were representatives from Australia that came to New York during Fashion Week, and some of the fashion models were there.
Okay.
And it was pretty funny because there was an event at the Women's Republican Club, but the politicians that came were like hardcore labor politicians from Australia. So it was sort of like, well, it was a good time, and obviously the models were nice.
Nice.
I hope that's okay to say.
Of course, yes. Anything could say. I mean, if but you kept it ultra clean. Now, talking about countries, were you involved? I mean, you talked about the UN. Do you have any opinion on when Joe Biden was at the UN but didn't visit the mayor Adams or your governor to talk about the migrant problem that's going on?
Well, yeah, I don't know very much about that. I think that Hochul and or Adams have had some communication with the Biden people on the issue. There was an executive order passed this week about Venezuelan migrants.
Oh
Venezuelan
yeah,
people could they could get work permits for 18 months, I believe.
Yes, I'm
yeah.
very familiar with that.
yeah. It was almost like 500,000 of them.
They get
Well,
work
the
permits
yeah.
and guarantees not to be deported.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty amazing. Like so, all the other migrants from all over the world, they can't. But so we've now just taken a group from one country and pushed them all the way to the front, but they're still there. I mean, they
Well,
still
yeah,
don't have housing. They don't
yeah.
have.
Well, yeah. I don't know if there were Russian migrants also. I mean, I guess they are fleeing because they don't want to be on the front lines of the war.
I can understand that. I mean, you're pretty much cannon fodder right now if you're a
Yeah.
Russian soldier.
So now there are about 40% of all the migrants that are coming to New York City are from Venezuela, apparently.
Okay.
And I will say this, I believe under the current law, if you are from Cuba and you get to Miami or get to Florida, and there are people that have died
Yep.
doing that, I've actually seen those boats, those
Yep.
boats that were smashed up. They have them on display at museums in Florida. But if you get to American soil, you are, I think, fast tracked for a green card, because we understand that the Fidel, or the Castro, the communist regime has a brutal history. Venezuela, I don't know if is too much better there with.
Yeah. I mean, there was a big difference between the two. I mean, one was, I mean, Cuba was the hardcore communist country. Venezuela is a pure socialist country, which there are differences, but it was also, we made that law back in the 50s. It was the 1 foot law. If you had 1 foot on the sand, if you were still in the water and not in the boat, the Coast Guard would stop you and they would try to send you back.
Yeah.
But now, if you had 1 foot, that's all you needed. It's kind of like the NFL. You get 1 foot in bounds, you're in. But yeah, I mean, Venezuela is a mess. I mean, what was it, 20 years ago? They were like one of the most profitable countries in the world. They have all their, but then they went 100% pure
Well,
socialist.
yeah. yeah, Venezuela was a model democracy in the region for many years,
Yep.
and then Chavez led a successful coup d'état,
Yep.
and then brought in his socialism or whatever it is, creating a lot of problems in Madero. So it's a very rough place, and
Yep. They
I
ended up.
don't know what we can do. I don't know. I guess a lot of the New York City is getting about 10,000 migrants a month.
Right. Not the 10,000. What was that? Just on Wednesday. The place in Texas. I wish I remembered the name,
Okay,
but
yeah, I don't. Yeah, tech. Yeah,
yeah,
so the country's going to
10,000 a
be.
day.
I would brush up on your Spanish because the country's going to be more Spanish speaking probably in the next.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna be like Canada, where everything's like Montreal, where everything has to be in French and in English, not just English anymore. Um, yeah, now the other thing that was in the New York news was how they're worried about making money right now. They're spending all the money on the migrants, and yet at the same time, I saw that they were looking to take down the monuments again of George Washington, Christopher Columbus, and there was a few others. So a lot of people were complaining. I saw that. No one actually emailed me that, but I did actually see that. So like they're going after this. If you can't afford the current people and anything else, why are you going to spend money renaming things, taking down statues again, putting up plaques? That was the other option. There wasn't like
Yeah, well,
there
yeah,
wasn't an option of leave it alone. It was either you get a plaque next to it of why it was bad, or they fully take it down. I mean, come on, New York, spend money correctly.
yeah. Well, I'm not familiar with the monuments. I will say that the New York City is kind of strange. The finances in the sense that uh, you have to project what's going to be, but
Right. That's always. And they're
it's amazing the crowds of people that are back after COVID. The subways are crowded again, the traffic's terrible. So I imagine there's some sales tax revenue and some revenue coming in. So I don't know how that's going to work out in terms of balancing the books.
right.
It still has a lot of universities, and there's still some finance. Some of the financial houses have gone to Tennessee or Florida, but it's still considered the U.S. capital of finance, the
Right.
U.S. largest, richest city. So I don't know how we're going to bridge the gap, and I guess there'll probably be some federal funding.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised. Just to keep it going. What else is going on? I mean, it's the first day of fall. Um, any big plans on your side? Any crazy events you're going to be going to? Any like Death to Lanternfly events?
Well, yeah, I sometimes go to the museums.
And
The museums have some beautiful exhibits,
I
and
I
try
forget
I'm sorry.
that there's a museum, and I went there, and I keep forgetting the name of it. It was in a complete hellhole. But it had like all these tapestries from the Middle Ages. I
Oh,
thought it
the
was
cloisters, the
the
cloisters.
cloisters. Yes.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was like the
yeah.
coolest place ever, and I don't know why it exists there.
Well,
Like,
that was I think that was a Rockefeller project. It's like a medieval castle up in one
yeah,
Heights. Yeah.
so cool. Now, how much does what's the Natural History Museum? How much does that cost to go there now?
Yeah, I don't know. What you can do is you can get cultural passes to get free admission on certain days if they're available. Now, there is a planetarium which I think is expensive to go into,
Right. I remember going to
and
that as a kid.
there is a new exhibit with insects. What's the word for it? I don't remember the word for it, but they have a lot. They have a big whole section where you can see insects in there. So it's quite
Oh, that's
nice.
cool.
It's a quite nice museum. It's more for kids. They have
Right.
the giant blue whale.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember that giant blue whale. Or was it a whale? Was it a whale shark?
No,
Dude,
yeah, the giant blue whale. Yeah.
blue whale. I remember that. So we're spoiled down here in the DC area where everything is free. So the reason I ask is because we were challenged I don't. I think we mentioned this last week's episode. We were challenged by Mr. and Mrs. Alfred about going to the National Zoo, which is free down here. But I was wondering, like, about possibly going to the Bronx Zoo and how much that would cost. That's like in the back of my
Yeah,
head.
it's about $20. You may get a discount if you have a Bank America affiliation, and you sometimes there are cultural passes where you can get free admission on certain days.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we are getting spoiled. So, did anything else going on in the New York? I saw that it's hockey season has about to begin. I'm a huge New York Ranger fan, so I saw that started. Baseball season, the Yankees and Mets kind of stink. Aaron Judge went bonkers last night, but and football. I don't
Well,
watch football, but that's a whole other story
yeah.
for another
I mean,
time.
getting one of the things that I wanted to tell you, and I'm
Oh, I'm
kind of
sorry.
no,
Go
that's
ahead.
fine. No, I'm kind of worried about it. I went to there's a Hudson River Museum, which is in Yonkers, which is north of the city. And I went there. They have a planetarium, not as nice as the Museum of Natural History. They have a
Right.
planetarium. I'd like to go back to the planetarium at the Museum
I
of Natural
love the
History.
planetarium.
But what really worries me is in about 2 to 3 billion years, the sun is going to burn up and destroy the Earth.
Yes. And we won't have to worry about green energy then.
But so that's kind of worrying. I guess maybe I shouldn't worry about it because I guess we won't be here in 2 or 3 billion years. But
Yeah. Do you have are you married? Do you have kids? I'm getting a laugh. I'm assuming you do with that.
well, the apparently it would take 27 years to reach the sun in a jet on a jet.
Okay. Well, I don't think you really have to worry about the sun. I think it expands first, so we'll all be like roasted before it goes out, and then it turns into a supernova, and then it collapses. Wow! See, look at that. I am a nerd. I do
But but
actually
uh,
watch this stuff.
but I do think there's life on other planets. I do think that out there, there's so many things out there that
I
there's life. I don't know if they're having a podcast like we are, or what kind of life forms there are, but I think there's life on other planets.
Yeah, I'm in that same camp where I would get myself into trouble because I could have an entire podcast based on me and my philosophy of life outside of Mars, on Mars, Earth. See, I'm from Mars and you're from Venus. But one last New York City question, got to throw it out there. Your opinion only. Do you think the United States should pull out of the UN and have the UN sent to another country?
Well, how is that? Has that come up at all?
It,
I'm
it
just
I only saw that because I was thinking about the traffic that you mentioned earlier, and knowing that the United States pays, I think, almost three-quarters of all of the money that the UN uses. So people are coming here like it's prime real estate. Like I understand the whole concept of the UN, but I feel like it. This is my own personal opinion. I want to make sure everyone understands that. I'm not even asking for Abigail. Like where's the UN in like the war in the Ukraine? Like, where are they? Where are the guys in the blue hats stopping things? But I feel like why are we spending all of this money? And you're in Manhattan, they take up all of the traffic, all of this, and I think it's
yeah. Well, yeah.
past its prime.
I, I mean, I guess it's a very political organization, very sensitive. For example, I was watching a documentary about the um, the Black September, the assassination of Israeli
Yep.
Olympic athletes in Munich in 1972. Uh,
Yep.
and Yasser Arafat was invited to the UN and made a speech, and
Yep.
so I don't know to what extent I guess maybe you keep your enemies close. The UN, the United States, despite its challenges, despite anyone's political beliefs, I think is a leader in the world. I don't know who would take that mantle over.
Right.
We're still the richest country in the world, despite all our challenges, and I don't know who else would where else the UN would go. We have a lot to be thankful for being in the United States. Obviously, we want to do better, improve things. But so I would say probably keep the UN here. I don't know.
Right, maybe we could send it to Uganda. I think they're, I think that would help their country.
Well,
Anyway,
the interesting thing about Uganda is that there was talk among the British that the state of Israel, rather than being in the Middle East, would have gone to Uganda. Now that this is
that would
counterfactual.
have that would have changed world history if it did. It would be so different. But that would be for. We'll have to bring you on for a what if
What
segment.
if?
That would be fascinating. So, Mr. N, you're invited back for a what if segment. And I'd like to thank you for joining us. And with that, we are crotchety old men.
And a quiet woman.
We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
I am crotchety. She is crotchety. We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.